You know what? I have 11 subs. Let's talk about Undertale and why it's okay not to like it and lose half them. Is this game even relevant anymore? Man, whatever. Undertale. I have a set list of my personal favorite games of all time. And as new games come and go, that list constantly shifts, changes, and shuffles, depending on what comes out. Undertale currently sits on that list as number 10 and will likely sit there for a long time. If I ever get enough requests, I might do a video on my set top 10 favorite games of all times, but I digress for now. Much like the Pokemon video before this, I love this game. I have so many good things to say about this game, and some bad things. But let's discuss a few things before going into it. I've been a fan of RPGs ever since my older brother stuck me in front of a PlayStation to shut my stupid 5-year-old self up with Final Fantasy VII. You know how with the original Twitch Plays Pokemon, eventually through a shit ton of trial, error, bullshitting around, and fighting, eventually they made it to the end? Yeah, that was me with Final Fantasy VII. I didn't understand strats, barely understood healing, all I could see was my numbers were bigger than the enemies, and eventually, with my bigger numbers, they would die. And if I died, I just needed bigger numbers. That was the initial spark that got me into the RPG genre, and when I got older, a bit smarter, and could understand things, something else drew me to the genre: the story. The rich book-like tales that spanned across hours. A good RPG is akin to a good novel, and RPGs were the Hemingways of the video game industry. I was drawn to these tall, magnificent tales spun before me, and the best part, I got to control how they flowed. I was hooked. Now around 2002, I was gifted an Xbox for Christmas, and sometime after that, my brother modded said Xbox to emulate old school video games, and it was filled to the brim with amazing RPGs. Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and one of the most unique titles that I've ever played and love to this very day, Earthbound. You can probably see where my love for Undertale comes from now. It was from these gems of the past that my appreciation for RPGs began to flourish to what it is today. My love for RPGs hasn't faded, and as long as the story's good, the gameplay means very little to me. Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts, and damn near anything from Atlas, I love RPGs. Undertale came out at the perfect time for me. Not only was 2015 winding down, but other RPGs that had come out I had already beaten, with others simply being lacking. I had beaten Witcher 3 earlier that year, and that game certainly earned the right to be called one of the best games of 2015, if not the best game. Pillars of Eternity, being one of the closest and most accurate representations of D&D I'd ever seen, was equally amazing. And Disgaea 5, which continues in the long line of grindy anime hilarity of the Disgaea series. Other games, however, were rather massive letdowns in the RPG department. Fallout 4, for example, came out, but that heavily neutered its RPG elements for the sake of being a more universal title. With a few other titles here and there worth mentioning, such as Xenoblade Chronicles and Bravely Second, overall, 2015, or at least the fall of it, was kinda lackluster for the RPG department. Then, on September 15th, 2015, this amazing gem of a game came out. I was lucky. My friends who played it prior to me told me about it and did one of the most important things one must do to fully enjoy this game: not spoil anything. They simply knew the kinds of games I like, knew this would be my jam, and told me to play it, and that was it. They gave me no hints on how to play the game, no tips on how I should play it, no nudges in one direction or another, nothing. They said, "Hey fam, this game is cool, play it," and I was off. This leads us to one of the most important things that makes Undertale so good, as well as leading to one of its own problems. Undertale itself isn't a very long game, only around 3 to 5 hours tops, but for the entire time I was engrossed. I turned on the game with its chipper little beats, its old school Super Nintendo-like graphics. The game was screaming charm. The characters were interesting, the combat was varied between each fight and each enemy, and the overarching narrative was something to behold. The final fight of that game actually brought a tear to my eye with how sweet it was, but not before one of the most anime-like boss fights I'd ever seen in a video game. I was utterly blown away by it all. Now, after gushing about this game for the past couple of minutes, what could be the problem? A few things, honestly, but like all games, it has some flaws depending on what you do or don't like about video games. Let's go over the most obvious one: RPGs in general. RPGs to some people just aren't enjoyable. Some people don't want to sit down and read a book when playing a video game. They don't want hours upon hours upon hours of lore dumped on them, some of which is not only not obvious, but damn near impossible to figure out without someone guiding you. Some people just want to sit down, turn their brains off, and have flashy, high-flying, adrenaline-pumping action shoved down their throats. And that's okay. This one isn't so much a problem to me fully, but kind of ties into the nature of video games as a whole. As much as I personally love Undertale, I can't go back to it over and over again like I could, say, the Monster Hunter game series or Pokemon. You're given a single, semi-linear narrative, and past that, nothing else. These things aren't flaws depending on who you ask. Some people just want to sit down and get their good story and be done with it. But once again, that isn't everyone. The magic of Undertale is experiencing it blind, and luckily I had friends who didn't tell me anything, that ushered me to go play it, and that was it. However, that final part leads to one of the biggest problems I think Undertale has, its community. While the hype and splendor of Undertale has tapered off quite a bit in the past few years, during its inception and sometime after, it was damn near impossible to not hear about Undertale in some fashion or another. From people wanting to cosplay to people writing fanfictions about it. By the way guys, please stop. Please stop putting these characters in loot situations. Please. There are skeletons, goat, fish, lizards, and children. They aren't meant to be made into loot situations. That isn't how any of this works. Please stop. Anyway, fawning over people playing the game in an exact certain way, in a particular way, I've seen entire Let's Plays get sidetracked by the fans demanding that they play the pacifist route, and only the pacifist route. And if they aren't, they're playing it wrong. There's no wrong way to play Undertale, however. People have been so dead set on everyone getting the exact same experience and joy out of the game as they have, they've ruined a lot of the magic of Undertale. Going into the game blind and messing up and learning is part of the experience. In case for me, I killed Toriel at first. Once again going in blind, I didn't realize there was an option to spare her yet. Sure, I'd done it with every enemy prior, but upon getting to Toriel, there didn't seem to be a clear way. I did the attack motion but purposely missed. I tried spare a few times, but I didn't notice any change, so I assumed it was the game telling me that I had to kill her, so I did. I was then immediately greeted by Flowey, who made fun of me for doing so, and implying that I could have done things differently, so I did. I went back and I tried sparing more until eventually the fight came to an end. I used the clues of the fight and the little dialogue afterwards to figure out that I didn't have to kill her, and thus didn't have to kill anyone. I learned from the experience. But I did that because I figured it out on my own, and that's where half the magic of the game comes from. It's gonna be a long time coming before we get another game like Undertale. One with such a rich story that questions the very concepts of video games we've used and accepted since their inception. A game that asks you why you do the things you do, and showcases that maybe you don't have to do things like you expect. When that game does come, however, I really hope we aren't met with the same kind of forced fanfare of it that will ruin it for a lot of people. Because that did ruin it for a lot of people. People shoving it down others' throats, forcing them to not only accept it, but accept it how they want and only how they want. An exact quote from one of my friends about Undertale that I think perfectly describes it is, "The game is really fun and charming, but the community is so over-enthusiastic about it to the point of being suffocating." But who am I kidding? That's exactly what's going to happen. Oh well. Either way, this is the That's Okay Guy, signing out.